In a silent courtroom, a poor father stands trembling, not with fear but with a love so fierce it shakes everyone listening. With nothing but calloused hands, worn clothes, and a tiny teddy bear, he faces a world that believes money is stronger than love. Just when it seems he has lost everything, a small voice rises and changes the entire room. The tension, the tears, and the sacrifice all lead to one moment where hearts break and hope is reborn. This is not just a fight for custody, it's a fight for the meaning of family itself. David sat on the old wooden chair in his small room, staring at the faded picture of his daughter, Ella. Her big brown eyes seemed to look right back at him, as if asking, "Daddy, when will I come home?" Tears filled his eyes, but he quickly wiped them away. He had promised himself never to cry where anyone could see him. It had been 2 years since Ella's mother, Ruth, had taken her away after the divorce. The court had given Ruth custody, saying David didn't have enough money or a stable home. But money wasn't love. David's heart burned with one thought: he would fight for Ella, no matter the cost. Late at night, when others slept, David worked in a factory, saving every coin. During the day, he stood outside the schoolyard just to catch a glimpse of Ella as she ran and laughed with her friends. Each time their eyes met, she smiled, and it gave him the strength to keep fighting. But Ruth was not ready to let go. She whispered to Ella that David was too poor, too weak, and that he had nothing to give. David clenched his fists. "I may not have money, but I have love," he said to himself. His fight was just beginning. The courtroom was filled with murmurs as David walked in, his shirt ironed but old, his shoes worn but clean. He stood tall, holding a folder of papers close to his chest. On the other side sat Ruth, dressed in fine clothes, her lawyer sharp and ready. David's lawyer was young and inexperienced, but David had no other choice. The judge looked at him, then at Ruth. "Mr. David," the judge said, "why do you believe you should have custody of Ella?" David swallowed hard. His hands shook, but he raised his eyes. "Because she is my daughter. I may not have riches, but I have a heart that beats only for her. I will give up everything, my time, my sweat, even my life, just so she can feel safe and loved." The courtroom grew silent. But then Ruth's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, love cannot pay school fees. Love cannot buy food. My client, Ruth, can provide stability, education, and comfort. What can this man provide besides words?" David's chest tightened. He looked down at his papers, his savings records, proof of his night shifts, letters from neighbors saying how kind and hardworking he was. He raised them high. "This may not look like much, but it is my blood, my strength, my sacrifice. Please let me show my daughter that her father is not a stranger in her life." Ella, sitting quietly in the back, bit her lip and prayed for her father. That evening, David returned home exhausted. He sat on the bed, clutching the small teddy bear he had bought for Ella with his last coin. The roof of his little house leaked, the walls cracked, but he had spent weeks fixing it up, painting it, and building a small bed for Ella. He wanted the judge to see that love had built this home. But then the news came. Ruth planned to move to another city and take Ella away forever. David's heart almost stopped. He couldn't lose her again. He ran through the rain that night, banging on Ruth's door. "Please," he begged, his voice breaking. "Don't take her away from me." Ruth's eyes were cold. "David, you need to let go. You will only drag her into your suffering." "No," David whispered. "My suffering is proof of my love. I will give her joy, even if it breaks me." Ruth slammed the door in his face. David fell to his knees in the mud, his clothes soaked, his tears mixing with the rain. Somewhere deep inside, a fire lit within him. He would not give up. He would fight harder, louder, stronger, even if the whole world stood against him. The final day in court arrived. The air was heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. David stood before the judge, weak from lack of sleep, but strong in spirit. He looked at Ella, who sat clutching her school bag. She looked back at him with tears in her eyes. Ruth's lawyer spoke again, listing all the reasons David was unfit. He is poor. He has no steady wealth. He cannot provide what a child needs." Then it was David's turn. He stepped forward slowly. His voice trembled, but every word came from his soul. "I may not have gold or silver, but I have scars on my hands from working day and night. I have an empty stomach many nights because I saved food for her. I built a home with my own hands, brick by brick, for her. If love is not enough to raise a child, then what is the meaning of family?" The courtroom was silent. Even the judge leaned forward. David pulled out the teddy bear and placed it on the table. "This is all I could buy her. But if you give me the chance, I will give her the world, piece by piece, with every breath I have left." Ella stood suddenly, her small voice shaking the room. "I want to stay with my daddy." The judge closed his eyes, then opened them slowly. His gavel struck the table. "Custody granted to David." The words rang like music. David dropped to his knees, covering his face as tears flowed freely. Ella ran into his arms, holding him tight as if she would never let go again. The courtroom was no longer filled with whispers but with silence, silence that carried the weight of sacrifice, love, and victory. Ruth sat frozen, her eyes filled with shock and something else, regret. David did not look at her. He only looked at Ella, stroking her hair gently. "You're home now," he whispered. As they walked out of the court hand in hand, David felt lighter than ever before. He had no riches, no treasures, but he had won back the one thing that mattered most, his daughter's trust and love. And as the sun broke through the clouds, Ella looked up at him and said, "Daddy, you never gave up on me." David smiled through his tears. "Never. And I never will."